Fertilization and implantation. What is insemination? Insemination is a release of semen into the vagina by the penis during copulation. The motile sperms swim through the cervix, enter into uterus and finally reach ampulla of fallopian tube as seen in this picture. The ovum released by the ovary is also transported to the ampulla region where fertilization takes place. All copulations will not lead to fertilization and pregnancy. Fertilization can occur only if ovum and sperms are present in the ampulla region at the same time. So if they both sperms as well as ovum are not present at the same time, then fertilization will not take place. Fertilization. The process of fusion of a sperm and an ovum is called fertilization. After dissolving the corona radiata, the sperm that comes in contact with the zona pellucida layer of the ovum will change the permeability of membrane and block the entry of additional sperms. This ensures that only one sperm can fertilize the ovum. So of the millions of sperms that approaches the ovum, only one of the sperms can fertilize with the ovum. The sperm which crosses the corona radiata, they also have to cross the zona pellucida layer. So the first sperm that comes in contact with the zona pellucida layer will change the permeability of that zona pellucida and will block the entry of other sperms. Secretions of acrosome will help in dissolving all the membranes. The contact of sperm with the ovum leads to the completion of meiosis II and the formation of functional ovum and a second polar body. The nucleus of sperm will then fuse with the nucleus of ovum to form the zygote. Sex determination. The sex of the baby is determined by the type of sperm that fuses with the ovum. The ovum produced will always have X chromosome, but two types of sperms are produced. Some sperms carry X chromosome while some carry Y chromosome. So, if an X chromosome carrying sperm fuses with the ovum, then the zygote will become a female baby. Whereas if a Y carrying sperm fuses with the ovum, then it will result in a male baby. Thus, scientifically it is correct to say that sex of the baby is determined by the father and not by the mother. The last event in sexual reproduction is post-fertilization. The zygote undergoes cleavage by mitosis to form first 2-celled and then 4-celled, 8-celled, 16-celled daughter cells called blastomeres, while they move towards the uterus. The embryo with 8 to 16 celled blastomeres is called as morula. The morula then divides and forms blastocyst. The blastomeres in the blastocyst is arranged to form an outer trophoblast and an inner group of cells called inner cell mass. The trophoblast will become Chorionicvilli that gets attached with the endometrium lining to form the placenta, whereas the inner cell mass will become the embryo. The attachment of blastocyst to the endometrium lining is called implantation. So here we can see how the zygote is getting transformed to form blastocyst and the blastocyst is getting implanted in the endometrial lining of the uterus. So this is this is the secondary oocyte which comes in contact with the sperms and then the meiosis II is getting completed. Then the secondary oocyte will be called as functional ovum. The sperm nucleus will get fused with the ovum nucleus to form the zygote. The zygote will undergo mitosis, cleavage to form first 2-celled stage, then 4-celled, then 8-celled and then 16-cell stage. These cells are called as blastomeres and the structures 8 to 16 celled structures are called morula. Later, the cells inside the morula will rearrange to form an outer trophoblast and an inner cell mass. There is also a fluid formed here which is called as blastocele. This structure is called as blastocyst. The trophoblast forms a chorionic villi and that will help the blastocyst to get implanted onto the walls of the uterus as seen in the picture. Whereas the inner cell mass has got special cells called stem cells which will help them to transform to form various tissues of the embryo. So inner cell mass will become the embryo. So here we can see as the fertilization takes place, the zygote is getting rolled over in different stages. After rolling, they reach the endometrial lining of the uterus and get implanted there. Pregnancy. Implantation of blastocysts will lead to pregnancy. After implantation, finger-like projections appear on the trophoblast and they are called as chorionicvilli. So you can see the chorionicvilli which comes from the blastocyst area. The chorionicvilli and the uterine tissue becomes interdigitated with each other to form a connection between the fetus and the maternal body. This connection is called placenta. So you can see there is a connection between the chorionicvilli. Here in the figure they have also called it as placental villi and between the uterine tissues. So this connection is called placenta. And then the placenta is connected to the embryo through umbilical cord that helps in transport of substances to and from the embryo. Substances like gases, nutrients and waste are getting exchanged between the mother's uterus as well as the embryo through the umbilical cord. So umbilical cord connects the placenta with the embryo. So the mark which is present after the umbilical cord is our belly button. The roles of placenta. So placenta is not only serving as a connection and it helps in supply of oxygen and nutrients to the embryo, also to remove the carbon dioxide and waste produced by the embryo. So the waste which is produced by the embryo in the form of carbon dioxide and other nitrogenous waste will be transported back to the mother's blood also through the placenta. In addition to this function, placenta also act as endocrine tissue and produces the following hormones. They produce hormones like human chorionic gonadotropin that has a function like progesterone. It helps in maintaining the endometrium lining to make the blastocyst stay implanted. And the other hormone is human placental lactogen. It helps in the mammary gland development. Then little bit of estrogen as well as progestogens or progesterones are also produced by the placenta, which will help in the formation of mammary glands and the maintenance of endometrium lining. Now these are the placental hormones. There is also hormone produced by ovary at that time which is called as relaxin. Relaxin helps to expand the pelvic bones which helps in the childbirth. In addition to that, other hormones produced by the thyroid gland is thyroxine, by adrenal cortex cortisol hormone, and by pituitary gland prolactin which helps in the formation of milk inside the mammary gland. So all the levels of these hormones will be high during the pregnancy stage. It is for supporting the growth and development of the embryo. So placenta produces the following hormones: human placental lactogen, human chorionic gonadotropin, estrogen and progesterone. Whereas ovary produces relaxin and there are other hormones produced by their respective glands. Stem cells in inner cell mass will help the inner cell mass to get differentiated into tissues like ectoderm, endoderm and mesoderm. And there is also a gut. It is from these tissues that the various organs will form later on. The embryonic development is also called as gestation period. In humans, it lasts for 9 months. So these are the changes which takes place. After 1 month of pregnancy, the embryo's heart is formed, so the heartbeats can be heard through the stethoscope. During the second month of pregnancy, the fetus will develop limbs and digits. You can see small limbs here, forelimbs here, and digits. By 3 months, that is 12 weeks, or also called as first trimester of pregnancy, most of the organs are formed in the embryo. For example, limbs and external genital organs. By 5 months, the first movement of fetus can be heard, and the hair also develops on the head. By 6 months, that is 24 months or second trimester, the body is covered with fine hairs, eyelids separate, and eyelashes are formed. By the end of 9 months, the fetus is fully developed and it is ready for delivery. The process of delivering the child outside the female reproductive tract is called as parturition. After 9 months of gestation, the fully developed fetus sends neuroendocrine signals called as fetal ejection reflex that triggers a release of oxytocin from the mother's pituitary gland. So you can see the fully developed fetus will send the neuroendocrine signals. Those signals are called as fetal ejection reflex. This makes the mother's pituitary gland to release oxytocin hormone. What does oxytocin do? Oxytocin will cause rigorous contraction of myometrium muscle in the uterus. This leads to the expulsion of the baby outside the uterus through the birth canal. And the process of delivery of the baby is called childbirth or parturition. After the delivery of the child has to be lactated. What is lactation? The alveolar cells in the mammary glands will start producing milk towards the end of pregnancy because of the hormone called prolactin. It's because of prolactin that the milk starts secreting in the alveolar cells of mammary gland. And this process of secretion of milk is called lactation. And the milk is being ejected out when the baby suckles the nipple, and the ejection of milk is due to the hormone called oxytocin. So oxytocin has two functions. It helps in rigorous contraction of uterus muscle for childbirth. It also helps in the ejection of milk. The milk produced during the initial days of lactation is called colostrum. Colostrum contains antibody, that is immunoglobulin A, and it is very essential to develop resistance in the newborn babies.